Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Bellott, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Bill Haber. Bill Haber is the CEO at TEKRiSQ and brings 25 years of commercial and operational business leadership to the company. He has built his career in enterprise software, big data platforms, digital health, medical devices, and telco network startups. TEKRiSQ does security for the cyber ecosystem. And so, Bill, I want to talk to you. Welcome to the show, and I want to talk to you. What does that mean?
Thanks so much. No, I appreciate it. The cyber ecosystem, we all do business with a lot of folks and exchange data to keep our businesses running. And it's very important that we're all, as a community, working together to protect clients' information and sensitive details about our own company to prevent the bad guys from accessing it and creating cybersecurity chaos, which is quite a problem these days and something a lot of businesses aren't bothering to mount a defense against. So that's becoming quite important.
Right. So what about, I saw on your site you work with small and other sized businesses. It's like, okay, so you got a small business landscaping company and, they have a website and, they interact with their clients. Do they need to worry about this? Is somebody going to attack their site? How do you deal with like a little bitty business like that?
Sure. Well, the best answer is I don't really know. And that's really the point of having a business that focuses on that sector. The cybersecurity industry kind of talks past small businesses.
Right.
Small businesses are notorious for not having in-house IT. They certainly don't have a chief information security officer or somebody making this their full-time gig.
Right.
And they typically want to do what's right to protect themselves and their clients, but they don't always have that expertise. And so what you really have to know to answer that question properly is what unique risks do they face? How do they use technology in their business? I believe that there are some landscapers here in Charleston who have zero risks and don't use electronics. Right. I also believe that there are several who are modern marketers and have huge exposures. And it really takes a little bit of interaction with a company to understand what their risks look like, and then focus on what are pragmatic solutions that keep them safe without breaking the bank. Small businesses, they don't need to be a Google data center,
right?
But they do need to put a couple of strategies in place. And sometimes that involves some cybersecurity solutions. Sometimes that involves just simple configuration of their network assets, properly. Other times it involves coupling solutions with insurance, depending upon what their exposures look like. So everyone's unique, got to have a quick chat. Yeah. And so we make risk assessment the first thing we do.
Oh, that's really cool because, I completely identify with this. I run a small business, one-man shop right now, and I have a website, and I'm sure there's lots of places that are, one person and larger, but they're not, they don't have 200, they don't have 300, and they're not IT focused. And they're like, okay, we don't even have a clue. We're hoping that our hosting site or our WordPress or our Squarespace or whatever it may be is taking care of these problems for us, right? Is that what, do you commonly see that, or how do you approach this?
Well, we do see a lot of people relying on hope as their primary strategy. We also see a lot of people relying on common myths. We hear them every day. Really? And they're preposterous. They sound like, oh, we only use Macs, so we don't face cyber risks.
Really?
Or nobody knows about our business. We're in a very niche organization, and we're not a target. People don't even know we exist. There are things like, oh, we're all taken care of. We have a great IT guy. He knows everything. IT and cybersecurity are two different disciplines. And while some IT guys or gals know their stuff, others don't. And
Right.
just because you're really good at configuring printers and setting up laptops doesn't mean you know how to protect the organization from cyber theft.
Yeah.
So we try and just help people understand. Let's look at your business, how you use technology, what you have in place, and use plain spoken language. You know, you don't want to talk past people. A lot of the
Right.
cybersecurity industry does that. But use plain language and talk about business outcomes that help people, you know, put the basics in place. And many people, you know, are pretty sophisticated and have some of the right stuff but may not know that they face an exposure that can literally put them out of business.
Right. Right.
There's some kind of scary stats that people debate a lot, but one of them is that 60% of the businesses who experience a breach in their first few years don't survive to the next year.
Wow. Wow.
And if you have the right amount of data and you have to comply with breach regulations in your state and you aren't protected, that can be really expensive. And no small business wants to be saddled with a giant loss or a bunch of compliance expenses. So yeah, it's tricky.
It is tricky, but yeah, I think I work in the exoskeleton industry, and we talk often about evaluating exoskeletons by risk in different areas, and so I get this idea of a risk based assessment. Is that a complicated process, or do you guys have like sort of like a template that you go through with the businesses so they can kind of understand what do you mean by these? Because you're probably going to have some jargon, I assume, around cybersecurity. How do they kind of digest that?
Yeah, well, we try and strip as much of that out of the process as we can. But what we've done, when we initially started TEKRiSQ, we started working directly with clients and struggling to schedule the right time to engage them over Zoom calls and things. So we decided to innovate some unique software, and it's beginning to catch on. We have a tool that we call TechCheck.
Oh, okay.
And the Tech Check is a NIST-based cyber risk assessment, and it's hosted by AI avatars that are friendly and can explain everything that anybody wants to know about the questions. They're very approachable, but they have a conversation with folks and capture sensitive data, and then can generate reports with which you can determine what are the most pragmatic things to do.
Wow.
And what's really interesting, and there's a lot of psychology and research being done on this topic, but what we've found, which surprised us, is that people like talking to avatars for a number of reasons, in some ways, more than they like talking to real people. Part of it is kind of the phenomenon of, you know, the same type of behavior. Once we started texting, we stopped calling each other.
Right.
Um, but a cybersecurity conversation with a business owner can be threatening.
Mm,
It can feel like you're facing judgment. It can be embarrassing at times to admit, geez, I'm not really doing anything about my company and I could be in big trouble.
right.
But when they can engage with an avatar, they can spend as much time as they like understanding the issues. So we make it both educational, but you can skip through it if you already know the right topics. People can do it on their own free time. In fact, we find that most people do it after hours.
Right.
Sometimes it's really hard to prioritize this topic that nobody pays attention to during your business day. And as soon as we launched it, we started seeing that most people do this between 6 and 8 p.m.
Wow.
And we make it fast and easy. It can get through it in less than a half an hour.
Oh, cool.
And it's we have chat and all kinds of assisted support mechanisms. So if they have any questions, if for some reason they don't find it very easy, which is rare, they can ask questions and we respond to them in real time. But it gets really good results and it scales like crazy. It can support thousands of sessions at the same time.
Wow.
And so that's a big part of our business is bringing this to larger companies who, really have to assess risk for hundreds and thousands of clients. And that's kind of an area we're focused on as well.
Right. And to access this AI engine, is that a fee service you have to pay for, or is it part of the initial assessment? How do you integrate it into your process?
Yeah, great question. So, first of all, by doing it this way, we make it really low cost. Cybersecurity professionals command big salaries and can be quite expensive to engage with. But by using AI avatars, we make it fast, easy, and affordable. But we have a couple different ways that we generate revenue from the risk assessments. Number one is that we make it available directly to a small business at a very small fee. We also sell subscriptions to people who want to have an avatar chat with all their clients. Think about folks who are like manufacturers and have supply chain issues,
Right.
or insurance agencies that need to place cyber protections across their client base, and or accountants who have to make sure their clients are in compliance with new regulations.
Mm.
So there's all kinds of different applications for it, and oftentimes they can buy a subscription to it, and it just runs in the background 24/7, 365, never takes a nap, never needs to break for coffee or take a vacation to Hawaii.
And that's great. And I heard you say this is based on NIST, which is for the folks who don't know out there, it's National Institute of Standards and Technology. I used to work there, not in this area,
Oh,
but,
cool.
but I'm a former NIST employee. And yeah, so NIST does all the cybersecurity guidance for the government, and it obviously makes cybersecurity guidance for businesses and industry too, which is used, by your company and lots of others to kind of guide what are the best practices out there. So that's great. You've got a real strong source of information to build on top of. So you're not just making this up. You're really giving people the best of the best.
Yeah, it's important to have standards-based assessments and use frameworks. So we also borrow a little from some other organizations. For example, we're active members of third-party risk associations. So assessing third parties
Mm-hmm.
is part of what we do. We've also worked with a lot of insurance carriers and agencies, so we understand what's required in a lot of the apps and the underwriters' appetites. Sometimes it can be hard for certain businesses to get cyber insured,
Oh, okay.
but there are good strategies to put the right combination of tools and policies in place that, delight the underwriters and end up getting them, preferential treatment.
Right. So with insurance, I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I've never really understood insurance in sort of the cyberspace. Is that insuring a company organization if a bad guy penetrates into your system and gets your IP or corrupts your data or takes your systems down or holds you hostage? Is it cover all of that, or is it something completely different?
No, so you're on the right track. However, what you're covered for and what your policy language dictates is itself a complex process.
Mm.
And in short, there's a lot of really good insurance professionals who aren't part-time cybersecurity experts, and they struggle with this conversation with clients. In fact, the average insurance agent has less than 10% of the clients in their book insured for cyber liability.
Mm.
And cyber policies can cover a lot of things. They can cover intellectual property. They can cover reputational harm and
Oh, wow.
a number of different issues. So that's another reason why we assess a customer. We like to figure out how they're using technology and how they deal with clients, and also size up, is insurance appropriate for them? Do they have a policy? Is it the right fit? And that's why a lot of insurance agents come to us. They literally say, hey, I'm really good at all these different coverages, but I just get so confused in this area. And do you guys have a way to make this fast and easy for me? And so we help a lot of that.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. So you're really working sort of both ends of the thing, is protecting people so they don't get attacked, but if they do get attacked, which is likely the case, and if you have a lot of exposure, how do you deal with it, and what kind of insurance is a good way to kind of cover your assets and liabilities? What else? Are there other things that you guys do beyond those things?
Yeah, so there are three core pillars of our business. It's assess, remediate, and insure.
Okay.
So when we assess clients, that's the process of discovering what their unique risks look like and recommending different solutions. We are a managed cybersecurity service provider. They call that an MSSP. So we actually can deliver cyber solutions and manage them so you don't have to hire a professional to run it for you.
Cool.
So we can fully manage those as well and deploy them and support them. And we are also insurance brokers, so we can provide the insurance policies and use what we learn from the assessments and the data we capture to populate insurance apps, to negotiate with the underwriters. And it can be very useful to insurance underwriters to see that a business has been properly assessed.
Mm.
In fact, in many states, it's a requirement for certain types of businesses to do this on a periodic basis, which is usually annually. But when you talk to an insurance underwriter and you can speak intelligently about what a client is doing to protect themselves
Right.
and what appropriate limits are and why, they feel like they're having a substantive conversation instead of, I just need to get them a little bit of cyber coverage, which ends up being the way, unfortunately, a lot of insurance agents have to do it. So
Right.
we're a one-stop shop. We
That,
assess, remediate, and insure.
that's amazing. So you guys for the MSSP type business, the remediation, is it similar? I'll use an analogy like security systems for your house, ADT or any of the different types of systems. Are you guys basically deploying out things to help protect business or help the business deploy things, or doing both of those?
We typically deploy them for our clients.
Okay.
Every now and then, we've got clients who say, you know what, I can manage them, and you guys don't need to do that. And um, that's fine. But most of our clients are kind of new to cybersecurity, or if they do use some solutions, they're not necessarily using ones that pertain to their business.
Okay.
That's kind of we see that as kind of a problem. There's been a lot of businesses selling cybersecurity solutions for the last couple decades, but they don't always do it with a risk assessment to understand what's a business's unique risks. Oftentimes it's a gold, silver, bronze package,
Right.
and they're hoping to sell you the gold, but if they can get the silver, that's great, and it may have nothing to do with what your business really needs to protect itself against.
That's great. Yeah, that custom fit solutions will always work better than, just the, you know, small, medium, large off the rack kind of stuff. And
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys been in the Charleston area, and what, what kind of businesses do you work with here in Charleston, or are you more of a global company? What is it? Is it a little bit of both, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, well, we work nationwide and we do a little bit of work in Canada. We work with some local companies. I would say the highest concentration of clients we have are in New York and California.
Mm.
But we do work with a lot of companies here, and we work with a few different size companies. We work with solopreneurs who have one staff member, but have a sizable exposure because they're doing marketing services or things. We work with a few small companies that are accountants and consultants. And we work with a couple of venture capital companies who manage portfolio risk for the companies they invest in. So, every client is different.
Right.
And as much as I'd love to say, this type of customer is who we go after or who we end up working with, um, it's really the folks who want to understand their risks a little bit and have someone who can take care of those risks for them.
Yeah.
Um, I got a 1988 FJ Toyota Land Cruiser that I love,
Which is
but when I
rare these
buy
days.
stuff, yeah, when I buy stuff for it, like I got to go get some new tires, and I
Right.
also got to get a new battery. But I got to find someone who can get the right tires because not all of today's tires work with them,
Yeah.
and someone who can work with the battery I have and a couple other things I need done. And some people don't want to touch the older vehicles. So I have some unique issues and I need kind of one-stop shop that can help me with all those. And there's a handful of them around town. That's what I like to think about when people ask, what is tech risk and who should work with us? Well, think about having a one-stop shop where someone can take care of you and understand your problems and specifically address them and focus on pragmatic solutions. We don't want anybody to spend too much or too little on security. We want them to protect their principal risks. And oftentimes, it's a good idea for them to have a little bit of insurance to cover really the big things in case something goes wrong.
Right.
They don't need a lot of insurance in most cases, but enough that if they have to comply with breach law, some of that breach response is more affordably covered by good policies.
Oh, nice. That's great. That's great. So, that's wonderful advice, and it's great to kind of hear this all. You've got this package where you can really cover people and help them through the entire journey around cybersecurity. What advice would you have for the entrepreneurs out there in the Charleston area? They're just getting going, and maybe they haven't even thought about cybersecurity and the cyber ecosystems. I just want to get my business up going, and I want to start making money.
Yeah, look, that describes most entrepreneurs. I would say this. First of all, the right thing for all entrepreneurs to be doing is focusing on their core business and not getting distracted and innovating as fast as they can.
Mm,
But there are some things that can get in your way, and nothing ruins your trajectory or your valuation
right.
faster than an unexpected breach that causes harm to your brand or things like that. So there's a couple of simple things that you can do to make sure that you're ticking the right boxes and building a culture of security along the way. So we think every company needs a risk assessment. Ours costs as little as $150 to get through it.
Wow.
And so it's not nothing that's going to break the bank, and it can really guide you towards what's the proper thing for this unique business that I'm starting, and how do I make sure that if something does happen, that I'm not going to be um, my business isn't going to be ruined, and I'm not going to lose all my cash because pragmatic solutions and the right things in place will prevent that from happening.
Right. And I imagine, in the long run, starting with, I'll say, good or best practices in cybersecurity. Once your business grows, at least you're starting from a good base versus, hey, I have to redo everything because I didn't start from a good base.
You bet. The whole cyber ecosystem conversation is kind of coming full circle. Today, whether or not you're regulated by certain industries, a lot of businesses are being asked by, the company they do their next big deal with. Hey, look, before we sign the contract, we just need to take a look under the hood and make sure you guys have the best cyber practices in place so we can do business together. We get a lot of companies that come to us and say, hey, we need your help. We have to be ready for all this, and we aren't anywhere with this yet.
Right.
And the good news is we can help them, and that's not terribly difficult to do. But businesses are starting to expect that of each other. If we're going to exchange data with you, show us you're doing the right stuff.
Yes, and I've seen that, when I was in a federal system where it wasn't just the prime, it was the subcontractors and their subcontractors. It started going down the chain where everybody needed to have the same level of cybersecurity, at least the minimum level, because you're exchanging data and email and all that, and so you can't have a weak link in there.
Yeah, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that's what's behind third party risk management and what some people call N tier risk, which
Mm,
is, your suppliers. And so it's important to establish standards and hold each other accountable for simple, basic things. And that's really what most of our business is making sure that folks understand here's what's going to be expected of you, and here's what you might want to do for yourselves. And here are a few options, and these are recommendations, and get that kind of advice in a fast, affordable way that isn't going to break the bank.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Bill, this has been incredible. I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and telling us about TEKRiSQ. I'm hoping a lot of the entrepreneurs out there in the Charleston area take you up on this. I think it sounds, especially like your, just the basic things, sounds pretty affordable for most people in this area. So I hope they take you up on that.
Thanks so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all, and look forward to meeting new businesses who are getting started in Charleston. We're happy to help you guys and get you going put the right foot forward.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Bellot, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of Lowcountry innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.